So, welcome to another edition of Alliance Insights. I'm here with JP. JP, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome. Good to see you.
Thanks, you too. We're so excited to have you on. We love hearing about folks' careers and how much they love the business, which I don't know if you have found, but I feel like every insurance professional these days is very happy to share their story and their excitement. And we're all too happy to let you do that. So thank you.
Yeah, no, I'm honored that you guys reached out, and I'm definitely drinking the Kool-Aid. I like the industry,
Yeah,
so
busting through the walls like the Kool-Aid man.
yeah, yeah.
So
You can
why don't we
say
just
so.
let's kick it off. Let's give our audience a little JP preview. Tell us about what your careers look like, how you got into the industry.
Sure. Yeah. So Jonathan Peters, go by JP. Um, I was a finance grad in college and kind of pursued music for a while. I moved up to Nashville from Oxford, Mississippi in 2016. Kind of piddled with this and that, and found myself working for Enterprise for 5.5 years, which was a fantastic experience, like great company. Um, it was in the wake of COVID that I ended up leaving. I got recruited by my current agency that I'm with. A couple of reasons for that. Like again, I love the enterprise training program. It really kind of elevated like my professionalism and kind of my work mindset. Like my mom from an early age kind of instilled, I think, a good work ethic in me, but that just kind of took it to the next level. I was looking for something kind of more consequential or like something more impactful that I could do with my career. And so the stars sort of aligned when South Point Risk, who I work for, reached out and we got in conversations and eventually came on board in May of 2021.
So only a few short years here. I did see that you went to Ole Miss. Is that what we call the University of Mississippi?
You're exactly right. Howdy
But
toddy.
but not a risk major, huh? They have one of the best programs
You,
in the
you know,
country.
I kick myself for that every other week.
Did they
Like,
try to recruit you? Did they try to recruit
yeah.
you?
Well, hindsight's 2020.
Sure.
I've always been good with numbers and this and that. Like, I started as a biochem major because my mom thought it'd be a good idea to be a doctor. I hated that. I moved to accounting and realized quickly that accounting is not math. And so I kind of flailed in that major, and so I switched to finance probably halfway through my sophomore year, and really enjoyed it. And I was kind of, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like I think a lot of college kids probably could share that same sentiment. I just wanted to get a degree. I wanted to be like employable when I came
Yeah.
out and like be able to be a productive member of society. Um, but yeah, it would have been nice to do the risk management program, but they do have a renowned program at Ole Miss, and so it is what it is. Everything in life happens for a reason. I'm convinced. So
I'm sure they would be very lucky, Andre Lehmanberg. They would be very
yeah,
lucky for you to come back and tell some of those students he's convincing to be double majors. So that'll be the way, you inspire. I also am going to clip what you just said there and send it to my son who just started his freshman year at Pitt as a biochem major with his
is that
parents
right?
in the industry. So
Yeah,
um,
very cool.
yeah. So you've been in the industry a short time. You weren't a risk major, and we won't hold that against you. But so tell us about how education though has impacted because you don't just go into being a producer. You don't just hit the ground running, or you do. But there's an education behind it. You have your CIC designation and others. What's been the impact on you and with education?
Yeah, well, profound in a word. Like when I came, my last 3 years with Enterprise, I was working through the corporate office in the sales division. So I felt like I had picked up like enough development in my sales acumen. I could hold my own in a kind of a tough room, right? Like I could talk to executives. I knew how to prepare. I knew how to word path. I knew how to kind of do those things. And so I moved to insurance. Obviously, what I lacked was that technical knowledge. So you go through licensing, before you can start selling insurance, this and that. I participated in the pace sitter program through State Auto at the time, and they put me through my CLCS designation, the commercial lines coverage specialist, and so that was helpful. But really, you know, in selling insurance, you almost like you feel like imposter syndrome, right? A little bit when you're trying to go sell a big account. So I can remember about 6 months into my career, I sold a $60,000 premium account. So some might call that big, some might not. But for me, that was the biggest account I'd written. And I realized like, oh, this is, I can do this, A. And then B, it's not too much more complicated than like the smaller stuff. It's just at a little bit bigger scale. That gave me the confidence, to sell more confidently and to like request those appointments. But I still had that feeling of, okay, the CLCS was like pretty beneficial, but I want to take this to the next level. My boss approved me. So the CIC designation in particular really like elevated my career, sent me to a new plane. I feel like my boss bought in. I said, what is it? You have to take 5 classes in
Yeah.
5 years, right? And so I was like, look, man, I want to do one a quarter until I get my designation. And so as long as I don't fail one, you keep footing the bill. Let me do this. And I really not that I'm the smartest guy, I'm not, but I really took it seriously and did it intentionally and studied as hard as I could, paid attention in the webinars. And so I ended up knocking that out in 15 months. Like I did
Wow.
one a quarter. And it's super, super impactful. Like CIC casualty in particular, I feel like, some of the general liability stuff can be a little nebulous to someone that's not been in insurance. Waiver of subrogations, additional insureds, and this and that. Like after taking that class, passing the test, I felt like a brand new producer, like leaps and bounds above where I was. After that, I think I did property, which was also good. Property's a
Yeah.
little bit more black and white to the layman, but still there are a lot of intricacies to it. And that might have been like the hardest exam of all the CICs I took, just because of the breadth of
Yeah.
stuff that you've got to
Yeah. It's a
learn.
lot. Yeah.
I don't want to say memorize, right? Because you don't want to learn it, but like there's just a lot of like the additional and optional coverage limits and stuff like that. But so those were hugely impactful. The other three classes that I occupied my CIC with were multi-line, which is also really good.
That's
Kind of
my favorite.
miscellaneous.
That's my
Yeah.
yeah.
So for my CIC renewal, side note, I think I'm going to do multi-line again, just because there's a lot going on there. I passed the exam, like I learned a lot, but I'd love to go back to that fountain, so to speak. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I did personal lines and agency management to round it out because I was had taken like a smaller leadership role at the time. And but anyway, the CIC path is incredible. It really made a huge difference in my career. So like I attribute my success almost majority to that.
That's fantastic. And what I love about your response is that, and what people are listening, they're probably like, oh, they probably tell him to say that because it's a Risk and Alliance podcast. We did not prep that, and I love hearing people's reactions to education and in particular our designations. And people sometimes skirt the idea of continuing education once they're a professional. But I think in this industry, to your point, constantly learning or going back and revisiting is what makes it interesting too, because there's always something new to learn. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So let's talk about building your career as a producer. I can't imagine that it's easy. You talk about that $60,000 policy, selling the first one or how big it is. How do you go about um, building that community of potential clients or clients that you're working with? And are there tools that gravitated to in when you first came over that worked or didn't work? What was that experience like?
Sure. There's a bunch of prongs I feel like that you can kind of utilize. Um, Producing insurance is largely a relationship driven business. And whether or not you're golfing buddies or your family friends or something like that, that person is relying on your expertise, right, to insure them the proper way. The insurer will say, I just want to be covered for everything. Well, there's no policy that covers you for everything, right? So like um, but as far as like getting started, you know what I mean? Our agencies maybe old school. I don't know how old school it really is. A lot of agencies probably do this, but we still engage in cold calling a lot for especially our new and green producers that maybe haven't had a ton of professional world experience. We want them to be able to kind of tighten up their bootstraps and go knock on doors and see what actual buyers in the marketplace are asking, their aptitude to take a call or interview a new agent, right? Overcome objections, talk to random people that you haven't talked to about insurance. And so that's almost like a vetting tool that we have. And so in my path, again, I'd had sales experience. I had done cold calls. I was comfortable with that, whether it be by phone or in person. We didn't do it as much in person at Enterprise, but we do it here. And I find that to be like a really good, thing to do. It's obviously less effective because I might could hit 100 cold calls in a day, but I might could hit 15 to 25 door knocks. But you can't get hung up on if you're sitting there in person in front of them. Right, so and there's, like, you kinda add the human element to it where they see you're not just, like a charlatan, right? Like, you're a real person, you live in the community, and, you can have a better conversations that way. So a lot of cold calling, but then so that's maybe prong number 1. Your own sphere of influence is big too, right? Like, who do you have family, friends? Do you have existing business relationships where they're not a final buyer, but, like, maybe they're a friend of yours or a supporter of yours and they're willing to prop you up or feed you a lead every now and again. Oh, I got a buddy that hates his insurance agent. Like, you ought to talk to Jonathan, right? And so, you know, kind of massaging those relationships and just being direct enough with your sphere of influence and say, hey, I'm doing this career now. Like, I could use some help. Like, I'm trying to build my name. I'm working hard. I'm cold calling. I'm doing this stuff. But if you know anyone that's unhappy with where they're at and would be willing to talk, like, I'd appreciate it if you can share my name. Oh, by the way, like, what are you facing? Like, what are the things you
Yeah.
struggle with? How could I help you? Because I'm talking to all these business owners and X, Y, and Z industries, and just kind of not just trying to be a leech, right? But also like make it a two-way relationship. Um, that's kind of in the networking category. Another thing in the networking category, like join an association, like the Association of General Contractors is one that my agency is heavily involved with. Um, some of our young guys will join BNI groups, and just get the opportunity weekly to tell 30 random people who you are and what do you do, and kind of find like a team environment, like a networking, whether it be trade specific or just a general networking group for business. That's a good avenue. Um, and then, this isn't as pertinent for or appropriate for new producers, but once you got a year or two under your belt, asking for referrals. If you're taking good care of your clients, and when you go deliver a renewal or go do a mid-year review or something, and maybe you check on that first. Hey, how are we doing for you? Is there anything we can improve on? Have you enjoyed your time with us? Yeah, it's been great. Okay, well, hey, we work off referrals. If you know anyone that might could benefit from our services, I'd love an introduction if you're willing to give it. And sometimes they might be like, okay, I'll think about it. Well, what if you had a printed list of prospects that are in their industry that they might know? Like, a lot of times, if you give someone a list of 25 companies that are in the area or in the industry, like, you'd be surprised how many times they know somebody. So being intentional, about the service you provide, and also, professional about asking for referrals, but also being direct. Don't be afraid, um, to be a person with somebody. Hey, you look, man, I'm trying to grow my book. Would you be willing to give me an intro? I feel like people respond really well to that. And being a person kind of pertains to all these prongs I'm mentioning too. Like, just
Yeah.
be real. We do script a little bit in our cold calling with our new
Okay.
guys when we're kind of prepping them to go in the field. But we kind of say it like the actor thing, like in a movie, like it doesn't sound like a script because that actor like practiced it 100,000 times, and so it feels real. So we'll kind of do that with guys. But at the end of the day, just kind of being, down to earth with folks, I feel like kind of moves the needle, and that helped me. Back to your original question,
Yeah.
really, really get my, my sales going here.
Do you find with like others who are trying to be producers now, or even in your enterprise days with selling, a lot of people want to sell, right? Because there's a maybe a pot at the end of the rainbow type of mentality. But are there people who come into it who really just don't have the knack? Is there something people should look for inside themselves that you find like? What if I'm afraid to cold call? Should I just take this career off the table? I guess is what I'm asking.
Probably.
Yeah.
It depends. It depends on what kind of a sales role you're in, because
Mhm.
some people are really good at relationship building, but they might not be great at forging relationships, right? So there might be a place, like some agencies employ, account executives, which are just existing relationships where they're kind of the face
Mhm.
of that account. So I wouldn't say totally shy away from sales, but how we do our new sale producers, like, we expect them to be able to, again, produce, right? Like, forge new relationships. Um, and some folks out there, maybe if like I'm not from Nashville, that's where I live, but so I didn't have a whole bunch of pre-existing connections. I had a couple from enterprise that some translated, some didn't to the insurance capacity. But you know, if you have an existing Rolodex and your family's from here and you know a boatload of people and you get things going that way and get referrals, like that's great. Because where I'm at today in my career, 5 years in, is I don't really make a whole lot of cold calls anymore. I've established, referral relationships and good
Yeah.
clients and things like that that kind of keep my pipeline full without me having to grind for it so much. So it's possible. Um, but if you're going to start from scratch, you need to have that willingness. And I mean, a lot of people have anxiety around cold calling, and I think that's human nature to feel that way. But it's like kind of a perseverance thing. Are you willing to overcome it? I've had a lot of personal growth, because I didn't love cold calling myself, enterprise when I started in the sales piece. But
There's no
you kind
numbers
of,
involved in that. How could you feel comfortable, right?
yeah,
We're numbers people.
yeah. And so, but I built like a callus with it, so to speak, right? You kind of get more comfortable with it, and you can, some people like treat it like a game, like, hey, like, how much can I get this person at the front desk to like me? What information can I get out of them? And so, you can reframe it in your mind the more you do it, and
Yeah.
and get more comfortable with it, and so
I want to go back to something else you said about, building the trust, to work off of referrals with existing clients, and the idea of starting with, is it going well? Have there been times where you get, or when you get feedback for improvement, how do you receive it? How do you go back and implement it? It's a little off the script a little bit, but what is there a way to implement it, or do you? I mean, you don't dismiss it, so you do something with it. I would imagine.
and you're saying like critiques, like if you
Yeah, like
do
when you
get
ask,
negative feedback.
yeah, when a client says, you say, or is it going well? And they're like, well, I wish we could do this better, or I need this and this. How do you how do you handle that?
Yeah. Kind of back to my prior comment of like being a person, like you need to be able to be humble and put your hand up when like something hasn't gone like you
Hmm.
maybe promised that customer it would go. Um, and that, that's how you build trust, is by being honest and open and transparent. And that's the reason we ask that question, right? Like I don't 100% of the time get 100% A+ answers from clients. Like we deal with that. Like things happen. Like maybe we have turnover, and they
Hmm.
had a account manager that changed over, and they had some friction during that process, right? And so it's, you know and receiving the critique, like a lot of times you'll want to like restate, all right, let me make sure I understand this entirely from your perspective, and kind of restate it so that they know you hear them, um, right? And so you're on the same page, so you're talking the same language. And then maybe recognize the capabilities of your actual operation, your agency. Like, do we even have the capability of delivering what this client like has an issue with,
Right.
right? And if we do, and it was just a mishap, right? Like taking that on the chin and saying, hey, I'm committed to making this better. I'm going to go back to the team. We're going to discuss it, and we're going to make sure we're better going forward. Like I want to hear, I want to follow up with you in a month to make sure like that we're making progress on this
Yeah.
front. Right. And so maybe get your reminders app out, set a reminder to check in after you have a conversation with your teammate on it. Because no one's perfect. You know what I mean? Like all of us, any agency out there, big or small, I guarantee is dealing with issues.
Yeah.
Um, and different employees are at different stages of their development, and again, like mistakes happen. So yeah, you just got to be willing to, be honest um, about it.
Yeah, it builds an incredible amount of, client trust and credibility. Are there other things that you do as a producer that build that client trust?
Sure. Um, it's kind of industry agnostic. It's like the kind of the basics, like do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
That's a big thing, right? Like in our meetings, we'll like set expectations, right? So we'll have a discovery meeting where we're kind of getting all the information that we'll need to go to market for a potential client, and then saying, hey, you always leave with some to dos. They never have everything you need. Insurance companies these days are asking for everything short of a blood sample to get a quote, right? So maybe they lack a driver's list. I need. Okay, well, Mr. Customer, Mrs. Customer, when can you get that to me? Okay, maybe on Friday. All right, if I don't hear by Friday, I'm going to email you, right? And then when Friday comes along, you do it. Or hey, maybe an expectation on when you'll have a quote. Okay, well, our minimum turnaround time is 2 weeks. You know what I mean? For an account this size, it might be closer to 30 days that we could really canvas the market and get to you the best of what's out there. Is that appropriate? Sure. October 3rd is fine, right? Okay. Well, I like to, a lot of times when we go to market, you and I might not talk a lot because I'm going to be talking to underwriters on your behalf. But what I'll
Mhm.
do is I'll give you a little Friday update. Like each Friday, I'll shoot you an email of kind of like what things are happening and like how we're trending, and then do that. You know what I mean? So, I don't want to just invent work for myself, but I also I want them to have a pleasant experience and know that a lot of times we might be working in the background for them. Well, I want them to stay informed if I am not hassling them for questionnaires that I'm
Sure.
getting from the insurance companies or things like that. You know, um, being present at renewals, like outside of like the new customer phase, right? An existing customer, like being present, and making sure you're truly being a good steward of their business, I think is also very important. Like reviewing limits every year, asking about coverages that they don't currently have. A lot of guys are like, "Oh, I don't want to be salesy." Well, you're not. You're educating them. It's like, "Hey, there's this line of
You
business that you don't purchase. This is what it does for you. Would you
you
like
spend
us
a
to
lot of
quote
time
it?"
getting to know the client directly, so why not offer the other lines?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. Personal lines. Hey, who's doing that for you? Like, and you kind of cross sell and this and that. But yeah,
that's great. So we talked about client relationships, and you mentioned underwriters just now. What has it been like building those carrier relationships? I mean, there's probably a lot of good carrier relationships as you came in to this organization, but how has that been for you during this time?
sure. Well, to start, we've been in a hard market for like 5 years, I guess, maybe longer, because I haven't been here for 4.5. But the insurance company and agency relationship can be testy at times, right? Like famously said, my first year, somebody else in my office, I just want to find an insurance company that wants to write insurance. And I think there's a lot of validity to that because it
uh,
feels like carrier appetites have kind of recessed, right? They're like they've got a lot of buts nowadays. Yeah, we like general contractors, but they have to have in business for 5 years and revenues have to be more than 10 million. And so you
yeah,
encounter all this stuff. And the the carriers that our agency is successful with is with the carriers where the underwriters or the territory sales folks are like available, follow up in a timely manner,
mhm,
and kind of can think outside the box, I guess you'd say,
yeah,
because insurance companies have appetites, but like businesses out here aren't changing the way they do business because of insurance companies' appetites. And
sure.
so you got to kind of find that middle ground and find your underwriters where you do connect with and have a good relationship with, and you can pick their brain, ask them questions. Hey, what things do I need to be telling my clients to be doing, like on the loss control front? Like, how can I get them, encourage them to be more insurable? You know, um, and so, yeah, it's really communication's key, right, with your insurance companies.
Yeah. So I did go to school for risk management and actuarial science, and we learn about hard and soft cyclical markets. I will tell you that I also came out of school in a hard market. I was just after 9/11, and then through the financial crisis of 2007, 8, and 9. And so I had thought they're lying. There's no soft market that exists. And I think we got a little bit of it, but I was way out of it. So like you, I never experienced a soft market. I thought they
Yeah.
were lying about what
Yeah.
everybody wanted to increase prices and just, you said excess of something, they're increasing their prices, you're increasing, who knows what's happening.
I got a
Um,
chart. I got a chart from Zyway that tells me there's a soft market in between the financial crash and the current hard one, but I didn't
was it
live
like
it. So
2012 for like 4 hours? No.
essentially, yeah.
Yeah, essentially. um,
Mhm.
So a couple other things here I just wanted to, pick your brain about, because everybody experiences challenges, and it seems like you have found a really awesome career to highlight kind of what you were looking for, impact. You're using numbers all the time. You're building those relationships. What have been some of the biggest challenges or, hurdles you've had to overcome? Or maybe there haven't been any, and it is just, butterflies and rainbows.
I mean, there's been a ton of challenges. I feel like I need like a category. Um, I
Category.
don't know.
Uh,
Yeah.
I don't know. I was gonna try to make a Jeopardy reference, but I couldn't think of one quick enough.
I can rattle through some. I mean, like you go to school, like pre CIC, you get licensed and you go out and do it in the real world, and it seems nothing like what you actually went through.
Mhm.
It's like part of the challenge was like reconciling like the licensing class, the material I'd learned to start, and then like how it really goes in the real world and like what really makes a good agent. And that was kind of just trial by error. You
Mhm.
could just kind of get out there. I reference communication 3 or so times now, but you just got to be available when your customer like has an issue. A lot of issues you haven't encountered before if you're new to the industry. So you just kind of rely on your teammates, persevere. Hey, I think I might know the answer to that, but I want to check with somebody before I tell you the wrong thing. Can I get back with you? I use that line countless times. Um, but like it helps when you have an organization like ours, like it's big teammate kind of environment where we've got like 3 folks that are assigned to an accountant, so you can pick somebody's brain, on as certain situations come up, claims situations. Like that's a big one. Like our organization very well impresses upon our staff to like not make guarantees or confirmations of coverage when a claim situation arises. Just educate the customer on their duties in the event of loss, report the instance to a carrier, kind of go from there. But there are some claim situations that kind of, because the insured will call you and they want to know what's going to happen. Right. And so it's like human intuition. You want to just say, or you want to be like the best agent ever, and you just want to tell them it's going to be covered. Like you're going to make a mess for yourself if you do that. So I never did that. Luckily I can say, but like I wanted to do that and like kind of overcome that, and getting used to like how to handle like the insured's emotions, right? When a big loss happens, like that's a thing, like that's their livelihood.
Yeah,
And they might be looking down the barrel of a huge lawsuit or something that could jeopardize their livelihood. And so like, how do you respond and, be the, best you can for them in that instance? Um, you know, maybe produce or presenting to an account that I've worked with, try to quote, and then I lose it, to a competitor. Well, how are you going to walk away from that situation? Are you going to take the high road and tell them thanks for your time and keep us in mind for next time? Or are you going to get angry and like, like get upset with why they didn't choose you or this or that, right? That never really goes away. It stinks to go through all the steps and not take on an account. But in that process, you kind of learn, well, how could I have qualified this prospect better last
sure.
time? Like, were they ever going to leave their agent? Like, why did I work this account? What questions with other prospects can I ask on the front end that will better position me, to get my hit rate up? You know what I mean? Like, I probably shouldn't take an opportunity to quote somebody that where their agent is their sister. You know what I mean? They're not going to leave their sister. Like
Yeah.
I could save them 15%. They're probably not going to leave their sister. That their sister's just going to BOR my quote. You know?
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of learning experience, and the hit rate earlier on. Like we always try to get our guys' hit rate up. Like how well are you qualifying leads before you go through the steps to get our marketing representative from your team to work up quotes for this account, and you spend a month on it. Like make sure it's got a good likelihood that you're going to write it. You know.
Have you all been using any like new technology or AI even in your processes recently, and how's that working?
Sure. Um, I'll start with non AI and end on AI because AI is like the newer one for us, and probably for a lot of folks, right?
Yeah.
But we've always had a good CRM. We've bounced back and forth on different platforms. CRM, a customer relationship manager, right?
Mhm.
So like, where do you catalog like the prospects you're working with? Our AMS system has a CRM component, like you can enter in prospects, but it doesn't really have like a visual representation of all you're working on. So Agency Zoom is a very good platform for us. It integrates with Vertifor. It's actually owned by Vertifor now. Um, the sales pipeline feature I like a lot. Like as the admin, I can kind of customize it for my folks, and add a bunch of features where they can quickly, like in a graphical kind of manner, see their pipeline. From new cold to contacted to initial meeting received to submitted to market to quoted. And so it kind of helps my sales guys stay focused on like what they should be prioritizing during a work day. Um, really good with follow up tasks and things like that, where they can kind of set reminders for themselves when they need to be following up with a particular prospect. So that's good. As far as like lead gen is concerned,
Mhm.
Zywave is something we've invested in for some number of years, and it has other functions beyond just prospecting, which we
Mhm.
like it for. But it also has prospecting, so you can look up certain prospects by expiration date if the information's
Oh,
in there, which
wow.
is super helpful, right? Because most prospects don't want to talk to you if they renewed yesterday, so
Sure.
that's really strong. Zoom info. I think Zoom info can be fairly expensive. The organization that we're a part of, Broad Street Partners, has kind of like a group discount for all Broad Street core operators, and so we get it for a pretty cheap price. But Zoom info like probably has your cell phone number in there, Noel.
Yeah, I'm
And
probably
it's
how
it's it's creepy.
much I
Like
make. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Camera
So
in my window right now. Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of it's like I hate that it exists, but from a sales standpoint, it's really good. Like if I'm having a hard time like getting in touch with the CEO of some company that I know we'd be a good fit for, well, it's nice if I can just go grab his or her email or cell phone number off there, right? And you don't want to like be unprofessional. Like I'm not trying to like text that person at night or anything like that, right? But like maybe I can give them a direct phone call during business hours or shoot them a direct email.
Yeah.
So that's been really strong for us. There's a few others, but those are the main ones. As far as AI is concerned, so we're all Microsoft, so we have access to Copilot. All of our
Mhm.
employees do, which is helpful. But also we've developed a proprietary AI that's kind of like a closed loop. I think it's backed by ChatGPT, so it's essentially the ChatGPT system, but it's a closed loop, and by that I mean it doesn't share it, like it doesn't get back out into the web, like our own customers' information. And it was essentially built by, I believe, our PE firm to be like the smartest insurance agent that's ever walked the earth. And so
Yeah.
it's not generative, so it can't generate documents, it can't do this, but it can put together tables, it can compare quotes, and give you a lead on class codes or like claim scenarios. It's really good use for. Um, that's kind of just rolled out. It's currently in beta test right now, but I'm one of the individuals that's been tapped to kind of like play with it, I guess you'd say. And I have loved it.
That's
Um,
awesome.
so we're kind of proceeding with caution as far as
Sure.
AI is concerned. Like we got to make sure we're protecting customer data. Like I mentioned, it's closed loop. So like our staff knows not to be putting customer information into actual chat GPT or perplexity or something else, because it obviously has a risk of like getting back out. So I think that's a huge consideration that organizations need to be making. Um, and also the accuracy of it all. Like it's brand new and it's super flashy, right? So guys will use it for like emails that they're going to send somebody. They want it to be worded perfectly. Well, you still need to reread it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You still need to audit it. Or I've heard in like the legal space that AI hallucinations are a thing, right? Where it cites court cases that never happened.
Yeah.
So you really have to be scrupulous, about because you don't have a clue where it's like sourcing its data. I do like outside of our proprietary, I do favor Perplexity because it hyperlinks its sources, so that's
Okay.
nice. So you can easily cross check. Um, but I saw a graph the other day that was kind of funny to me. The most cited source of any AI is Reddit. Like I think 41%
Oh, okay.
yeah. So like those are chat rooms essentially, right? So like
Yeah.
who are these people that are posting in Reddit? Like, you know, in my personal life, I might look, how do I fix my garage door that won't shut? Like that's a good use of it. That's kind of harmless, right? But
Sure.
if I'm a lawyer and I'm trying to like build a case or like find something false, maybe I need to, be a little bit more
Yeah.
scrupulous.
Well, that's the
Um,
scariest part, right? Folks that choose not to reread it or check the sources or, um, yeah, that it's scary for others. I imagine Reddit probably just has the most views, clicks, shares, whatever, that's what's feeding it populating on AI. Note to
mm.
start posting more alliance stuff on Reddit for drive people to the RCIC courses.
Totally. Yeah.
Right?
Hmm.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, I love this discussion here because you always I've been in the industry 25 years, since I was 3. Um, and when you tell people, I have a big passion for recruiting new people into the industry, young, high school, university. I think it's great. Someone did that for me. We did not do that well enough for you, and you were full measure what you're in. So we're grateful. But I love when you talk about, um, when you're building your clients and the cold calling, but you brought everything back to a human element, that relationship building. And then even further, it's about maintaining those relationships, that credibility, that trust. and how that just, makes a career kind of, flourish, and practicing it, right? You're not going to be great the first time all the time, but it's, brings it all back to education, practice, and really, I think that a human element in helping folks is always what gets me about this industry. So I really
Mhm.
appreciate that. Is there any, more advice you'd want to give to maybe someone who's considering or just starting out?
Um, stick with it. Maybe is a thing. I mean, we had a prescribed book um, that a lot of our producers read that they've been with, if whether they've been with Pacesetter or the Elite Sales Program. Shout out Ken Fields and Diane Masterson, but Elite Training and Consulting. But the Game of Numbers is a really good read. Nick Murray, I think, is the author. And it just kind of covers like you're going to encounter no way more than you're going to encounter yes, but every no is kind of a learning experience, and it's just one step closer to yes. This sort of premise. Rome wasn't built in a day. Don't give up on a career aspiration just because it's hard at the beginning. And in fact, if it's too easy at the beginning, is it going to be fruitful for you long term? That means whole lot of other people can do it too.
Yeah.
So kind of like stick with it. If you feel like it's a good move for you, like keep your head down, put in the work, because the harder the greater the risk, the greater the reward. I guess essentially is what I'm saying. And I can say for myself, it was certainly worth it to stick with it. And I love where I'm at. I look forward to coming to work every day. Commercial insurance is just complex enough to, I mean, I'll never be done learning. I'm certain of that, right? There's things I still learn every day. And I value that, right? Like I don't want my job to just be easy or humdrum to where I come in and I'm just doing the same thing every day. So I've really loved this career. I encourage others to try it out and stick with it for at least 3 to 5 years to really feel out, whether it's going to work for them or not.
Yeah. And for the next, what, 30 years of the hard market? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully not.
Yeah,
Golly,
hopefully
that's
not.
the not pleasant part of our job, but
Yeah, yeah, it makes it
um,
interesting fun. Well,
totally.
JP, this has been quite a pleasure to have this conversation with you. I hope we can continue the conversation another time. So thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
And if you're looking for more information on the Risk and Insurance Education Alliance, please visit us at riskeducation.org or follow us on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and this content, along with others, available on our YouTube channel. And if you're very interested in joining JP for his upcoming commercial multi-line course that he may take for his update credit, I think I heard you say that, check out our course schedule. You too can find out more information on commercial multi-line. So thanks so much. We'll see you next time.